Hello everyone, Jensen, take a look. People call NVIDIA the father of AI. Lisa already said that this is the biggest earnings report in years. It also shows that peak demand for AI is still very low compared to its potential. We think that this first round of spending will keep the tech bull market going. I almost see it as a tour swift moment for the tech bulls. People who don't like it will hate it, but we just got back from Asia and demand keeps going up. As I said, demand is 15 times greater than supply. This is where you begin to see godfather of AI gens and NVIDIA a year from now. NVIDIA might be worth $4 trillion. The AI revolution is just getting started. I think this is the most important change in technology in the last 35 to 40 years. It's like a fourth industrial revolution is happening. This isn't just talk. I think we're seeing more and more proof of that. We're seeing it with Oracle Paler Service right now, but I think it will happen with other companies too. This is just the beginning of the AI revolution, which is being led by Godfather B. Jensen. It's not stopping, even though NVIDIA and Redmond say it is. The bears have also hated this rise for the past 2 years, and I think they'll have another tough year ahead. We think the numbers will go up a lot more because they're based on $1 trillion of AI-driven capital expenditures. I think the markets are still underestimating what the ultimate demand will be. And I think as this all plays out, it won't be an expensive stock. In fact, I think the rest of tech will be cheaper over the next 6 months. We believe tech could be up 25–30% over next year. Our view is this was going to be the fade ripping the Band-Aid off. In terms of the cotton 50 bips, I think was a huge first step to what's going to be just a massive doish stands over the next 12 to 18 months. And for tech investors, that's a risk on trade. It's bullish. That's why today a lot of those bears that have been out for the last month after a few years in hibernation mode, they're going back into those caves this morning. $1 trillion hours of capbacks is what we see from an AI perspective over the next 3 years. You go back 6 months ago, we thought that was $500 billion, and so every quarter, if you look at the underlying demand, not just some hyperscalers, but what's going to be other enterprises, it's just starting. So all of our checks are showing demands actually continuing to accelerate. As far about yields are improving from production perspective, that they're the only game in town use cases are coming through. We saw that with Paler. You see that with ServiceNow. Now this fourth industrial revolution, Rome wasn't built in a day. And the AI revolution won't either. For people who think this is all talk, things are starting to come together. AMD, NVIDIA, other ones, like Microsoft Paler. I don't know who the bears and guys at the watch party are, but they're not hearing my calls right now. AMD is the only game in town, which is good for Lisa Su and other people. There is a LeBron in high school because AMD is so far ahead of the rest of the pack. AMD chips are like gold and oil right now. Bears will come out after that conference call last night. But there's nothing I see that makes me doubt that we won't have 34 trillion market caps in a year or less. When the AI supercycle starts on the iPhone 16, what's going on in China? What can you tell me about Dell and Redmond? From a chip's point of view, demand from HP and supply 15 to 1. Business demand has made it a little more optimistic than it was when we were in Asia a few months ago. As of now, NVIDIA is the only game in town. However, the number of use cases is growing quickly, which is good for companies like Microsoft that need to scale quickly. About $1 trillion more will be put into AI over the next 3 to 4 years, I think. Big tech companies like Amazon and Google will lead the way, but in the end, other companies and governments will also join. I believe we're somewhere between this kind of CapEx huge initial wave and where you've seen the numbers come out, so you know how it's going to make money from a software point of view. Microsoft has seen it, and Oracle has seen it in a paler light now. But the second, third, and fourth versions, all of our checks are showing. We go into December, you go into March, you go into June, and 25, that's where I think numbers come up significantly higher. And I think that's where, even though we've seen some sort of soft spots, obviously Salesforce, a few quarters go and others. I believe this is just air pocket, and ultimately we're going to see numbers go a lot higher for software. The bears been worried about recession the last 2 years, while techs just continue to rip higher, and they'll come out of hibernation mode here. And there over the coming months, you got the election, of course, in terms of some of the risk, but just as we talked about, this is a fourth industrial revolution. And that's not changing if it's 25. It was 50 bips. It's not changing regards who's going to be president. This is an unprecedented tech spending environment. Fed cutting, I believe, just makes it more of an auto bond in terms of what we're seeing for tech. I'm not saying everyone's going to benefit, but in terms of the AI revolution, the winners, that's why I believe over the next, 3 to 6 months, we're looking at NASDAQ 20,000. Look, Lisa, you should never bet against T. On the chip side, they will clearly gain. That won't happen very often for another 18 months. But I don't think AMD is building in a lot of that AI. You can be sure that the next iPhone 16 will be driven by AI. It's just a matter of when. Now, I'm aware that a lot of bears have been talking about pre-orders and trying to scare off Asian buyers this week. No one thought the number of pre-orders would grow so quickly, but they did. That's what this is all about as Apple data comes out for the December quarter and goes through March. That's why I believe this will be the biggest iPhone launch ever. There's still time for the market to process it, but we're going to keep going. People will always dislike Apple, but I think this will reach $4 trillion in 2025. More than 1.5 billion iPhones have been updated so far, and 300 million of them are the most in the last 4.5 years. This is setting up an upgrade cycle that has never been seen before. And look, the AI revolution is coming to Cupertino. I believe that 20% of people around the world will use an Apple device to reach AI in the next few years. That's one area where I think the street is wrong about what the consumer AI revolution will mean for Apple stock. It also shows how we feel about the start of the year. The NASDAQ will hit 20,000, and I think tech stocks will go up another 15%. Jens is known as the godfather of AI, but for every dollar spent on NVIDIA chip, $8 to $10 is made in software infrastructure semis. I think this is what will happen. I think the AI party starts at 9:30 p.m. and goes until 4:00 a.m. now that the Apple news is out, and I think this tech market bull market will continue. It's not a bubble or a 99. I think we are in the middle of a fourth economic revolution in software. It's what's making it happen. That's why I think Apple will be the start of a renaissance of growth that starts with a super cycle driven by help from Apple to Apple. We think it's time to put away our popcorn when it comes to Microsoft and NVIDIA on the business side. Tech stock is still 15% more valuable. More than 1.5 billion iPhones have been sold, but 300 million of them still don't have the latest software. That's why I'm in Asia today. This is my second trip there in 6 weeks. Since I last went there, the supply chain builds have gone up by 10 million pieces. It will be a big year for Apple if that trend keeps up. And this is before Apple Intelligence comes out. I believe this is their largest unit year ever. And I see it as the start of an AI-driven supercycle. More than 230 million units, and based on what we're seeing now, I think that number could be between 240 and 250 million units. Joan is right on the mark when she talks about the upgrade period. Given how many people still haven't upgraded, there is more desire than ever for one. But if you look at Apple Intelligence AI, I believe that 20% of customers around the world will be able to use AI through Cupertino. This is what will make the multi-year upgrade cycle work. The base price of an iPhone 16 or 17 is $300. In a year, I think this will be worth $4 trillion.